when we work with partners. Many of them are new to us, to our brand. I've had a chance. My entire career has been in controls, but has been on the branch sides of some of our peers in the industry.
Mhm.
So talking with independent system contractors and some of the challenges that they face, it has been a real education over the last couple of years. And so I think this mode or this scenario, the problem that we're all in, has been brewing for a number of years. That when I started in the industry, I feel very fortunate that there was, again, as a sales guy starting out in this industry, not necessarily a formal apprenticeship as you might expect in the trades, etc. But I had good mentors. I had good training programs that my employers put me through. And so while I feel like I gained a lot, today our apprenticeship program, the way that we bring talent up, the way that we attract young talent into the industry, whether it's in the building trades, the operating engineer pipeline, the technician pipeline, we have struggled. And so what we're facing today, we started creating this problem 10, 15, 20 years ago. So today, finding folks that know controls, that know one manufacturer's another, thirds has diverse experience, those folks are very hard to find.
Yeah.
And generally, when you do find them, they're very good at what they do. They're valued by their employers. So the idea of sneaking or taking someone is also not very easy.
Yeah, they're very expensive.
They're very expensive.
Yeah.
And people like working where they feel valued and appreciated and used. Right?
One of the things I've noticed talking with folks is if you look at LinkedIn and you look at a lot of the marketing that's on there, right? It's IT controls, cybersecurity. What I don't see people messaging, and why I'm excited about this interview, is I don't see people messaging around talent. Because when I talk to integrators, they don't say to me, Phil, if we just knew IP or if we just knew cybersecurity, they say, we're working time and a half on projects that we booked at regular time.
Sure.
Or we're literally passing up work because we can't get people. And yet that's a problem that people give kind of a cursory glance to, but they don't seem to have a program, a plan to address that. What are your thoughts on that?
So talking about LinkedIn and marketing, I don't want to minimize the value of sharing with the world some of the great things that we're doing in our industry. There is a lot to talk about. And while for some of us that are as close to this content, there is some value in teaching and educating a broader audience about IT and OT, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Where I feel that we have a bit of an obligation to our system integrator partners is in providing those tools, in providing the right things that they need. That if we strip everything down, our customers are compensated when they execute work and they book projects and they sell. And likewise, as a manufacturer, we get paid when we ship product.
Yeah.
So understanding that there are certain barriers to our customers becoming more successful, that while I do want to educate the broader world about what we do, if I can't get my customers what they need to be able to install my product, they will buy my product.
Yeah.
So for me, again, in an operations role versus say somebody else in a marketing role, very committed to helping our customers solve this talent problem. That if we can make them either more efficient, if we can help their folks develop faster, develop better, they are more likely to be successful for their end customer, and they will be more successful with us.
Yeah, and it's an interesting dilemma because you all are bringing both an existing product as well as your new kind of controls product to the market right now, which requires people, right? It requires trained people at the end of the day.
That's correct. Yeah.
So that is kind of one of the primary focal points right now that I've got to imagine is going on kind of in the boardroom, the discussions. What are you all kind of seeing in that discussion? Because it's not like you're going out there and there's all these certified people.
Right.
You guys, and I think this is kind of cool at the same time, just to be totally honest, because what I've seen is a lot of people who don't really know what they're doing. So this is an opportunity from ground zero for you all to teach people.
That's right. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
So look, there's going to be a fair customer base that is somewhat experienced. And there, what we really need to do is just connect the dots on what's unique about our product. And while that's its own problem, there are, there's track record, there's solutions there. That's not necessarily what I'm laser focused in on. It is just this. And so there's a few categories that, I'm particularly passionate about that we're building here. And so one, early career programs. So partnering with college and universities, some technical departments, providing them material, training, et cetera, so that they expose essentially college students to the world of building automation and controls. And and of course it's positioned because it's true that the effort of their work does make a more sustainable world. So it's a really nice way to get college folks or early career talent exposed to our industry. But outside of that, there's also a lot of folks that want either a change in their career, that they're in some sort of technical field, or they're in the building trades. And I don't want to limit anyone's imagination here. You could bring any background really to our industry. That with SBA, with what we're doing as a manufacturer, the foundation that you need to be successful in our industry, you will get. So anybody who's mildly technically inclined, somebody who has an interest for technology, they feel like they're the guy that tinkers with tech at home. Anybody who's even remotely curious about technology is a perfect candidate. And so while early career is one, folks that are interested in pivoting their career into becoming a controls tech, as an example. So building those programs. And then there's another dynamic to this, which we can't overlook, that you may have a personal interest in becoming a technician. To fund your learning is a bit of an ask. It's a lift. And so as an employer, the traditional way of doing training, the traditional way of bringing talent on, meant that you had to hire a guy. You had to pair him up with another tech. Maybe the mentor wasn't in, there's complication there. And then it takes a year. It takes 2 years. Now you've got a guy that's really good. He learned, he followed, you spent the time, effort, energy into developing this talent, and chose to pursue a planet somewhere out, right?
I knew exactly where this was going.
I, as a business owner, shouldn't be reluctant to invest in talent. But if my ROI in that talent is perhaps somewhat limited, I'm reluctant to do that. So again, how do we enable folks very quickly to be able to learn what they need to do so they can start to become productive, give them the tools they need, put them out in the field, give them hands-on experience. That structure, I think, really helps when we want to pivot somebody's career. They don't feel like they're taking as much of a break from what they were doing to what they will do next. There's low risk for the business owner, and it's just a mutually beneficial engagement.
I agree. I think, time to revenue is key. Right. If you can do, like, what we're seeing is we're seeing an 8x return on the cost of training within the first year. And what we're also seeing, I'm glad you brought up the mentor thing, because that's how you and I grew up. I don't know how well that works right now in our extremely labor compressed market. And so that's why we have to look at different models, because you've got this mentor who's most likely one of your lead people. And I see organizations, and their idea is, we're going to take this person, have them teach someone how to do something, which is going to further our problem, right? I like that you brought up tools, and it's something I'm going to circle here because I want to come back into it. But the challenge I see, right, is the traditional mentor. I see one of three things happening based on feedback from our customers. One is that person doesn't have interest in new technology, so they're teaching the old stuff they're comfortable with. Maybe they're not a teacher. You don't know. And the third thing is, you're taking your most profitable employee and you're putting them on, here's how you connect a thermostat. And it's very difficult. Now, tools. This is something that I know you all are thinking very much about. We had some pre-discussions prior to this about what you're looking at from onboarding system integrators, Let's talk through that experience, because that is one of the things I'm excited about, because you're training a workforce, but you're also training a process, which is, in my opinion, where projects fall apart is the process. Talk through that.
No, I appreciate the question. There's a few different dynamics. Okay. And so I'll structure my comments in the, you mentioned onboarding a customer, and I think that's pretty much how we think about it.
Yeah.
Now, ABB, and maybe I'll use this as an opportunity.
That is a really cool notepad.
This is the Remarkable tab. And
I've seen that on Facebook.
I'll talk to you about it after.
That's pretty cool.
It took a second to get used to, but I really like it. So we'll structure the comments around tools and onboarding as an experience, because it touches a lot of different types of scenarios that exist within every system integrator. But before I do that, I would like to take an opportunity to give you a bit of background about ABB, and
tell us why.
I'll connect the dots for you.
Yeah.
So the thought being that we have an obligation to maintain our brand. So ABB, strong name in the HVAC buildings world. It is work that my peers have done in the years past that I am now benefiting from. So ABB, 4 business units or business areas: electrification, motion, process automation, and robotics. Now, variable frequency drives, ball door motors, etc., sits within our motion business. We sit within the electrification business. So for us, the brands like Thomas & Betts, GE, these are all acquisitions that ABB has made over the past few years, which now makes us one of the largest and strongest providers of electrification components within the building. Now, if you look at some of our peers in the industry, the Siemens of the world, the Schneiders, there is a overarching strategy that ties in a building and its components through the brains in the building, right? Not to overly simplify, but that's essentially, that was sort of the master plan or the thought behind the acquisition of Cylon and American Automatrix, in that, and Teletrol for that matter, that we have these legacy brands, these brands that have been around for a while. Most of us, may not recognize Cylon, but we will American Automatrix and we will Teletrol. That over the many years, that's sort of the genesis of our technology. But that was the thought. ABB's thought was that we now need to have some sophistication in the building, and their approach was this way. So ABB in building automation is going to be a surprise for many folks, but that's essentially it. It's a full architecture of controllers, software front ends, Niagara, our own front end, controllers, IPM, STP, the whole range, which is very surprising because most folks have not heard of ABB in building automation.
No.
So that being said, we get a lot of interest. We talked a little bit beforehand about consulting engineers, that when we connect the dots and we show them, it's a no-brainer. Our name gets us in the door, and then the tech sort of keeps us there. But we benefit from a strong brand that our peers have, or our colleagues have made for us.
Yeah.
And we feel a very strong obligation to maintain the quality of that brand in the marketplace. So again, we're very small, we're very new. That means that every system integrator that we bring on has had some competitor experience. They've got some track record. Some have been a partner of ours for many years. But that being said, that we want to make sure that the tools that we give them are good, that the quality of their education with our familiarity with our products is good, so that when they go do work in the marketplace, the name that they leave behind with the owner, again, it's that logo on the thermostat that sort of will be the lasting thing in that building, is an ABB logo. And I feel a very strong sense of responsibility that when my logo is left behind in that building, it comes with the positive association, right, that they're used to.
So interesting question that just literally popped into my head, because think back to my experience with ABB drives, things of that nature. How has that, industrial PLC experience, which that's very precise,
right?
A lot of redundancy built into products like that. Sure. How is that translated into building automation? Which, let's be honest, it's It's not exactly known for its redundancy.
Sure, and has its own. So this answer again, a long answer, but I'm very proud of the answer. That ABB's influence on the legacy style on American Automatrix comes in ways that is not immediately obvious. So one, just powerhouse engineering team, right? So the way that we're structured on the R&D side is we have a corporate R&D that essentially does projects for the variety of different businesses. Now you've got the guy that's working on building automation will continue to do BMS, but the standards that he follows, the practices that he follows, the criteria that he has to undergo is a broad ABB standard of excellence, if you will, that follows on every product that we make, regardless of which side of the fence it sits on. So the same quality of engineering goes into designing our product that goes into designing another product. Manufacturing, we're building thermostats and controllers, not drives and motors, but we have the same standards and requirements of our facilities, our raw materials, the entire supply chain from start to finish is held to the same standard. So yes, we're making BMS controllers here versus PLCs versus drives, but what I'm very proud of is that our customers can expect the same level of quality regardless of the product that they're buying. Now, software, firmwares, as we've only been a part of ABB now 2.5 years, right? March of 2020 is when we were acquired. So those, while hardware and manufacturing, and we can talk about supply chain and how we work through that, but on the software side, we will see these positive influences over time in the near future. But I feel very lucky that the same robustness and that same quality that customers have come to expect is experienced throughout our product portfolio.
Yeah. So talk to me. So I find this interesting because I can't remember really the last time a major OEM brought a product to market sure, people brought new versions of a BAS product to market.
Right.
But what I want to explore is, okay, you're going to bring this product to market. It's been brought to market since 2020, but you're looking at, we're targeting what kind of customers? What are you targeting? Like what's the thought process? Just bringing it out.
As an organization, if I had to summarize our mission or give you our mission statement, is electrifying commercial building by the use of building automation systems. And so electrifying or helping customers through their decarbonization journeys, that's essentially what drives all of electrification. So do we need another controller on the market? Maybe not, maybe not. Do I feel very strongly that there are some unique advantages to ours? All day long, right? And so we can certainly talk about those. But there's another dimension here again, in my career, I've greatly appreciated all of my experience. I've had an opportunity to work with a few of our peer companies in the industry. But that being said, where I like to differentiate, again, is on the proximity to my customer, that a lot of my peers in the industry have perhaps over time, degrade is maybe too strong of a word, but there's some distance now between the system integrator, the manufacturer, how they buy product, how they're supported, that distance is one that as we build an organization here, that proximity to my customer, that intimacy with my customer, we will not lose. So our tech support group, our customer service group, right? These functions, we have an engineering group, we have a field operation, we have a large multi-site retail business. So all of these different support functions now report up through me. And what's really important is that we don't lose this touch with our customer. So if we maintained great customer satisfaction because we had 10 tech support folks and 100 customers, we will have 100 tech support folks for 1,000 customers. So what we are building today structurally within our company is the same mechanisms that supports us in the ways that our customers expect, regardless of scale, which I have been very lucky that ABB has supported this thought process. So today we maintain the same quality of service for our customer, regardless of our growth. And I think we've now a little over doubled in size from the time that we were purchased.
Well, let me ask you this, and forgive my ignorance. Do
Please.
you all primarily go? Do you have branches that self-execute, or are you
No.
through system?
Yeah.
Okay.
ABB as a company, again, is unique in our industry in that regardless of business unit or function,
Mhm.
we are a very heavy products company. Now we are trying our hard. There's some valid solution-based
Yeah.
services that we offer an end customer, but historically we've been a very product-heavy company, and so for us, it's in our DNA is to sell products.
Hmm.
So no branches for us in the building automation world. No branches pretty much throughout most of the ABB businesses. I used the word distribution with some caution in that in our industry there works in a
Yeah.
few different ways, but distribution is the primary mode of going to market for broader ABB.
Yeah. No, I mean that makes sense because, quite frankly, I've never. I don't want to say never. I try to avoid absolute words,
Sure.
but I've yet to see a large scale solution applied across all North America that gains traction
Mhm.
because it's very market driven. So you mentioned electrification. You have an electrification solution and you put it in New York, going to get completely different traction than here in Atlanta,
Sure.
Georgia,
Absolutely.
because there's regulation, there are different standards that are expected by the AHJ. So that is interesting to me to see that, because now you're saying to the system integrator, to the contractor, here's the offering. It can support these solutions, but we trust you to look into your market and make the decision on
Right.
how you deliver that solution. Would that be a fair statement?
It is a fair statement. Again, in the same theme around quality of service, regardless of scale. Every manufacturer to some extent will try to make sure that the folks that install the technology know the codes and rules, regulations, etc., for the jurisdiction in which they work. But that being said, we introduced a new role we call a sales support engineer, and so for short, SSEs. Now, SSEs are they don't have revenue targets, right? They're not incentivized in that sense. They are entirely designed to be a support mechanism for our system integrator, or right, for the sales team, for the system integrator, in that, okay, I know my local codes, I know your technology, help me connect these dots, or help me place your solution in my problem. How could I do that? Help talk to my consulting engineer and help them understand what you bring to market. And so to bridge that gap between solution provider, here's a bag of tools, you go figure it out, that we do feel a pretty strong obligation, again, to do that, whether it's brand building, education building, whatever it might be, in their own local market. And so now we have SSEs, 4 parts throughout the country. They travel pretty frequently, and that team will grow over time. But yeah, no, that was another very important, structural support piece that we wanted to build. And so again, as we grow, we can justify the talent. We'll add that talent. Hard talent to find.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
for real. Let me ask you this. You mentioned tools, and I'm huge on process and tools. So
sure.
I want to go back to spec influence.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing, in my opinion, to market penetration.
Yep.
What are you doing around that?
There's a couple of things. So I'll start by saying that, again, a generic spec written and delivered will do just that. It might answer a question here or there, but it's likely not doing much for the engineer.
Yeah, true.
And we have all seen the Intel Pentium 2 in the spec in 2022, right? We have all seen it.
Yeah.
So again, delivering a spec and then expecting the engineer to just use it, does the owner disservice? Does the engineer disservice? It doesn't do anything for us. So again, the SSE is doing just that. What's the problem you're trying to solve, Mr. Owner, Mr. Engineer? Let us help you figure out. So there is a very manual component to how we do specs, but also not the most productive thing. And so we have a spec tool essentially. answer a series of questions. It gives you, a pretty thorough. You start in a pretty thorough place, and as you sort of answer some questions, it helps you refine. But again, what's very special about it is it very explicitly points out parts that we have influenced or touched.
Mm-hmm.
That as an engineer, don't take our word for it. Please, you make the call on what's right for you, what the problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
But here's our technology and why we think this is probably a good fit for the project or for the problem you're trying to solve.
Mm-hmm.
So my preference will always be one-on-one interaction between the sales engineer and the consulting engineer. But we're very lucky. We have a very mature sales team,
Mm-hmm.
People that have been in the industry for a very long time, so they know how to handle the spec. So while there are digital tools available to help you navigate a spec, my preference would almost always be that we work on that or we contribute to that effort directly.
Yeah. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's a people business. Right?
Yeah. And
I mean, no one's going to trust.
No.
Yeah, I got this one.
No. And look, we're very lucky that over time, the quality of our work will build a relationship with the engineer that, look, at the end of the day, we're all professionals. We're all engineers. We like to contribute. So yeah, we have to make sure that we do a diligent, thorough effort. Copy pasting a spec I wrote for this guy is not going to work for the next guy. Don't copy paste it and send it over. Yeah. It's a shortcut now.
Nothing like having your competitor's name in there.
Yeah. Well, and that's fine too. I mean, look, every project is probably not the right project for us.
What are the right projects for you?
That's a good question. We're very strong in, again, the commercial office building space, where we are what we're doing well is our innovation pipeline, our product roadmap is very strong. So while today we're very strong commercial office building, we're very strong in education, K through 12 space, data center, hospital, lab. That's going to be a strength for us in the coming months and years.
Yeah, which would make sense. It would tie into your industrial line and
precisely
power management line.
That's exactly right.
When you say strong, that can mean strong as in our ability to meet sequence, strong as in our pricing. What does that mean?
So technically, from ins and outs and DIs, DOs, look, the product is robust in that. So I'll give you one quick story. One of our points, IO points on our controller is a point that we call a uniput. It's a patented point, but it's software configurable to be a DI, a DO, an AI, or an AO with an HOA.
Really?
Which is really cool.
That is interesting.
So again, you've got a.
Why did you start with that? All the tech geeks are like, what?
Right. No.
It's so cool.
It is really cool. So it's a completely software configurable, truly universal point with feedback. It's got HOAs with feedback, or
it's got feedback.
That's right.
Well, that's pretty wild.
That's really nice. So look, so theoretically or technically, there's probably some answers here. So yeah, strengths could mean very much physical IO.
Yeah.
But alternatively, we're very lucky that now that we have the power or the influence of ABB from a procurement point of view, warehousing, shipping, logistics point of view.
Yeah.
So how are we strong? Yeah, we're strong on product. We talked about the input. Throughout the pandemic or over the last 2 years, we've been very lucky that, granted, a blip here or there, but generally we have been confidently able to tell our customer, you can expect your product within 2 weeks.
Okay. You got to highlight that because there's a lot of people. So my director of biz dev is in the room and he'll probably run over and slap me. But there's a lot of folks who can't say that right now.
Yeah.
And not to name names or anything, but it's a challenge. And it's a challenge that, and honestly, I'm not in product engineering, so I don't know. I could be speaking out of my ass here. But the reality is, like, we've had this for almost 3 years now.
Right.
You think people would have figured out I don't know.
It's not, you're right. It's not fair. Okay. It is massively complicated. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So on our part, now granted, we, through the pandemic, 2 weeks on most of our product, if not all of our product. I mean, we had a new sensor that we built that then slipped into 4 weeks. but all of our controllers shipped within 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And we say 2 weeks to buy us some time, but it ships from export PA. So in our own controller, we had to re-engineer. So chips aren't available. And so you buy the chips that you get.
That's the thing at the end of the day.
Now we had to re-engineer board layouts. So we did have a couple of swap outs of chips, that the ones that we wanted or we used, we couldn't get. So we had to get a different one that sat differently on the board than the last chip. So what can we do to sort of reroute some of the wiring or the board layout?
Yeah.
But not mess with plastics, or let's not mess with mounting, so that, okay, what's inside the controller could change, but we don't really have to do new documentation, new cut sheets, new plastics, new boxes, right? So the team went through a lot of work to be able to maintain the same layout. So we've had our own re-engineering on chips. And so I suspect that, again, a lot of my peers in the industry are dealing with a much bigger scale maybe than we are.
Yeah.
But we also bought 2 years worth of product at once. We bought, they're called spike, spike orders or buying on spike, which is a premium price that you pay to buy a quantity larger than you normally buy.
Yeah.
So we've had to pay spike prices for products so that we can build some inventory that when we need it, we will have it. Now that foresight or the expense to be able to pre-buy, again, very fortunate that ABB again believed in this vision of setting up a controls company, that they approved these purchases.
Yeah.
Now, while this is another thing that we're very proud of is, so yes, ship in 2 weeks, but our price increases, and we did have price increases, but were very, very mild compared to a lot of our peers. So we've been very proud. So what makes us strong? Product makes us strong. Shipping, receiving makes us strong. We're very competitive in the marketplace, so price is strong. And ultimately, we have to give the team a lot of credit that they have maintained a very good quality of service for our customer, considering that we're now twice the size that we were when we were bought. So our strength, comes in a few different dimensions.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the challenges and it's something as a CEO that keeps me up at night. Is like, I got some folks in my team here, and they hear me talk about it as well. And so you might hear some laughing in the background, but I'm always like, oh man, we're about to do this and this. How do we keep that quality of service up?
Right.
Because that is what people buy. At the end of the day, it's a people business. Yep. I mean, a lot of things are on parity, although that HOA universal input is pretty cool.
It's nice. I'll show you the cut sheet later.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of it at the end of the day is, can I trust that I'm going to have support as a system integrator? I mean, that's huge. Can I visually see, because a lot of us in this industry are visual, can I see a path to getting my team up to speed?
Right.
And then do I know that there's going to be product when I actually sell the job? So we talked about product. We talked about some cool tech. What are you doing? What's the path to get people up to speed look like?
So in a couple of different ways. So we talked about the early career talent program. We talked about the workforce development type programs. Training is a hot topic for us. So there's two additional dimensions that I'd love to talk about. So one is somebody like myself, historically have thought of myself as a fairly technical guy. Last few years, I don't know what happened, but I'm now the old guy that needs help setting up his phone. Right? So there's a lot of us out there that could benefit from refreshers or a course, when I say onesie twosies, that I'm interested in, staying up to date on IITOT, that topic. There's familiarity, but not, there isn't a proficiency. Yeah. And I'd like that. And so building a scenario or, essentially a catalog where our customers can essentially go and build individual skills that they think that they need to build. And then the last is going to be training on our specific product. So our front end, our programming tool. Now on our programming tool, we're all used to in-person training that's
Mhm.
instructor-led, right? We've been doing that for 30 years, 40 years.
Yeah.
In the pandemic, we all had to learn how to do instructor-led virtual training.
Yep.
We've all done web-based, self-paced training, right?
Mhm.
That's a very useful tool.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally our business.
What is really neat about us as a manufacturer is that our training had never been bucketized the way that you do. Your expertise is in putting modules together and then having
Absolutely.
students follow that. But as a manufacturer, for us, we had not built that for our programming tool. So we built that. We built that in English and in Spanish. This year we'll re-record in French to support Canada. And then we're building that out for the variety of tools. But what I think is really innovative and kudos to our team, that when we follow self-paced virtual training, we remote into a panel. So one of our offices in Manchester, New Hampshire, in our lab, we have 14 or 16 panels with J's and our controllers and our T-stats and whatnot. And you VPN into the panel, and as you follow these modules online, you then interact with the physical panel.
Yeah.
So you learn how to program. You download a program, you upload a program, and you sort of go through that training exercise with some live equipment. That when you finish, you then take your certification exam, and it holds the same weight that had you gone to training in person.
Yeah.
So training, self-paced virtual with the live panels, we're very excited about. So whether, again, recapping the early career program, the workforce program, the a la carte type program, our own training initiatives, but this is what we've thought of so far.
It's multi-pronged.
If there's something that we are missing, please tell us. I mean, we've got budget. Let's build.
Yeah.
So no, we are deeply committed to finding out what else can we do to make your life as a system integrator easy, because we will do it. It might take us a minute, but we will do it.
Interesting. And then one of the things you and I actually talked outside the room is just your philosophy on onboarding people,
right,
on onboarding SIs, working with them for the first couple projects.
Yeah.
Like, tell me, I'm just interested in behind the scenes.
Sure.
Like, how did you sell that internally?
It was tough, right? The idea that we would spend money on a resource, not just travel, but salaries, etc. Again, a responsibility to protect the brand, right? So I did a job with you once and it didn't go well.
Yeah, we were talking about
right?
that. Yeah.
Or I tried messing with your thing, but it was just not easy to learn, or it was quirky, and I just whatever. I'm not interested. I'm gonna move on. It's those types of smaller hurdles that you will quickly get over, right? You'll use a product, you'll do one or two jobs, and very quickly it'll become natural, and you'll move on. But it's those first few jobs that an extra pair of hands, or somebody to look over your shoulder, somebody to ask a question to live, makes the difference, right? It takes that risk of trying a new line out. And so, again, sales, support, engineer, our field techs or tech support group, we will gladly send somebody out. They will, sort of hold your hand on larger, complex jobs. We'll do it virtually. Whatever mode is convenient, we will do. But again, philosophically, we want to hold your hand as you try our stuff. That you shouldn't feel like we ship you a box of stuff, we ship you a training manual, and good luck. But that's not, because ultimately I will damage my brand in your head. Yeah. And maybe you'll install it on a wall somewhere and it won't go so great. And I've damaged it.
Sideways.
That's right. I've now damaged my brand in front of the owner. So and I think that's the pitch internally. That yes, it'll cost us a few $1,000s every time you send somebody on site, but my reputational damage, or losing the opportunity with that system integrator, losing an opportunity with an end customer, is far more costly. And again, we're in growth mode, we're in heavy investment mode, so we're taking advantage of it.
So I'm going to switch gears real quick. So system integrator, just out of my own curiosity, because I've never managed a channel. What is the process for going and saying this person would be a good system integrator? What's the vetting process? And then, is it, I know, so some OEMs want as many SIs in a market as possible. Some are like only one in a market. What is the thought on that?
Again, big question, and I'm happy to answer. So we're very small. So just about every territory for us is relatively new. Now we've been lucky of having some mature system integrators in certain markets pre-acquisition, but post-acquisition, we've been in build mode. Now for us, we have to have a good mix of plan and spec guys, good mix of service guys, good mix of automation within a mechanical contractor. We've got some GCs that are learning the skills to deliver a connected building.
Really?
It's a really neat approach. And this GC out of Southwest, your neck of the woods, has the team, which was step one. You have folks that know the tech, but they went from a new idea that we wanted to learn how to do controls, or we wanted to do our own controls in our project, to now becoming one of our biggest, if I were to treat them as an SI, which they technically are, even though they're a GC, they're now one of our biggest guys. They're very successful. They're very smart. And they deliver quality projects for their owner. So we think about mix. That's, I think, the really important thing. So we plan and spec. We will only grow if we get new buildings, right? So I don't want to downplay retrofit world, but for me to quickly build footprint, I need new buildings.
Yeah.
So for that, I need plan and spec. So for me, for us, having a good mix of contractors that have diverse contributions to our industry, that perhaps, we've got folks that they're really good at schools. That's what they do. And then we've got guys that just do complex environments, and that's what their specialty is. So that's the evaluation criteria on our part, is we want to make sure that what are their strengths, how does that contribute to what we're building, are we aligned in the same way that we're thinking about our business, and then giving them what they need to be successful. So for us, we're lucky that we're small, that we get to have the ability to be able to pick and choose who we work with. But it's been a really fun process. We've gotten to meet some really, really talented people out there.
Interesting. So I always have kind of two questions for anyone I interview.
Sure.
Folks who listen are already knowing what's coming.
Okay.
So this could be anything. There's no, it's not BAS necessarily, but it can be. So what are you excited about? I know we talked about the Peloton tread and the rowing machine.
The workout routine, these are all new things for me. I will tell you, so I'll make it a bit personal. So for me, started in the industry as an intern in college. And have done building automation with a variety of our peers in the industry over the last 17, 20 years. What am I excited about? I'm excited about the opportunity at ABB. So I've been an employee here now 2 years, a little over 2 years. And for me, I view this as a once-in-a-career opportunity
absolutely
to put the foundations of a controls company together in the U.S. So for me, that's what's exciting. And I have not had this much fun professionally. Nothing bad to say about my prior employers, but I have not had this much fun. I get to learn every day. I'm constantly stretched to my limits every day, which I really enjoy. I enjoy getting to make a lot of these decisions about shaping our company. The person that I report into, my leader, Ben, just great working relationship. Our leaders are fantastic. Our team is fantastic. We're all thinking about the opportunity that we have at ABB the same way. So what am I excited about? I'm excited about what we're doing here at ABB. Hopefully we leave, the thing I talk to my team about a lot is, what do we want to be in 15 years? In 15 years, we will be, a well-known name in building automation, but what kind of company what does that mean?
It's important.
That when we're a big controls company, what is going to be the defining characteristics? What will people think about us? So that's what's exciting for me.
Yeah, because I will tell you, so I'm part of this one Facebook group on about building automations, like 26,000 people in it. And everyone has kind of their own interpretation of an OEM. And it's interesting to watch the impressions people have of different OEMs. And obviously I'm not going to discuss that here, but it's interesting that you mentioned that, because it's one thing to have a growth goal
Sure.
and to hit that growth goal. It's another thing to have a reputation goal.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day. So here's the second question.
Please.
What question should I have asked you that I didn't ask you?
When I say background, again, why me in this role is perhaps a tough question for me to answer. I would struggle with that one.
I asked that about myself. I'm like, why am I running a training business?
Yeah, but I'll tell you that why I think that that's relevant to the group is, sold small, 20,000 square foot tenant fit out, sold, equipment and controls for large libraries, work projects for the Postal Service. Nowhere remotely as technically inclined as most of your listeners probably. But I feel very lucky that over the last 17, 20 years have had a chance to work with the small building owner, the corporate building owner, the tenant, who has a day job and they manage the space on the side and they need service because the boss's office is hot.
Yeah.
Again, working with independent system contractors has been new for me, but you clearly can tell the quality, or, a lot of these folks have had, experience with larger manufacturers and their branch organizations. They've decided that they wanted to start their own controls company, that you really see the quality of the people that are in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
So having some background, having some experience, and then getting to do what we're doing, has been a lot of fun. It's very challenging. Secretly, the imposter syndrome is very strong, that I hope I, live up to what's necessary for the role, what's necessary for ABB. And, if this is my way of leaving a fingerprint on our industry, is it going to be a good job?
It's interesting you brought up imposter syndrome, because I was interviewing one of the graduates from our workforce development program.
Sure.
And he said that exact thing. I say that to my team quite often. Like, are we doing good enough training? Like, is our stuff really valuable? Right. Is it really impacting people? And it's interesting. I hear that from high performing people quite often, is they often tend to be very self-critical. And it's like, am I really doing it? Like, why am I in this role?
I'll help you out there, Phil. Celebrity in our industry. The work that you guys do is killer. Every single independent system contractor that I've talked to not only knows about you guys, they value the work that you do, and your contributions to our industry are very significant. So we appreciate.
I appreciate that. Like, I get emotional.
Yeah, no, it's important.
Well, thank you. This has been fun. I really enjoy this.
It's been a treat. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny. I've done so many of these, and I still get nervous every time I do one. It's crazy. So that's it, folks. This was podcast episode 404 with Saheel from ABB and Phil Zito. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Like I said, this will be available at podcast.smartbuildingsacademy.com/404. Once again, that's podcast.smartbuildingsacademy.com/404. We'll link to any resources. And if y'all want to see more of these kind of interviews, definitely let us know. It's not very often that we get to have transparent conversations with major OEMs about what they're doing in the market. And it's not very often at all that a new product enters the market. I mean, I can think of 2 other times in my almost 20 years in this industry. So this is pretty cool. So thank you, Saheel.
Very lucky. I appreciate it. Likewise. Thank you very much for the time, the opportunity, and it was a pleasure speaking to everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.